Welcome back to the Always Thinking Mindset channel, where we give you positive vibes and simple rules to achieve your goals. Now, in today's episode, we are going to speak on my personal favorite, three investments every millionaire has. Now, what is that about? But, anyways, before we start, if you like the channel, please give it a thumbs up. It does help the algorithm. You don't have to be subscribed. But if you love the channel, you already know what to do. All right, let's go ahead and start. But before we start, just a disclaimer, I am no expert or professional, for any kind of financial advice. Please consult with your own people before any big decision. And why listen to a guy on the internet, right? Anyways, so the first major rule, right, or the first major investment that every millionaire has, guess what it is? Stocks and bonds. It's the most common, right? What is a stock? Well, there's plenty of stocks, and a bond is just a backed security, pretty much by the government, and that's more of less of a risk tolerance. But stocks, whether it's an index fund, blue chips, all this good stuff, stocks in the playing the stock market is actually good. It's not an overnight thing, right? Because people play stocks and we live in an age of a digital age, and Bitcoin is another thing, but they want easy, fast returns. And the stock market is not that way. The stock market is you put it in, you hold until your days of retirement, and then you open it up and you get this beautiful golden egg. And it works. It still does work. And a lot of people still do it. But at the same time, we are becoming this culture where, between emails and computers and fast this and fast that and AI, we want returns now, right? You want to double your money. And this is what majority of millionaires uh, understand, that, growth and accumulation, it takes time. You got to go with the flow. But stocks and bonds are the most common that every millionaire has. And at the same time, you're looking about a 5 to 10 return of interest, right? So, which is an ROI. But, they're playing the market. You got to understand, when you play the market, you don't control what happens in the future. Yes, you see headlines, you see the news, you see the president, you see so many things, right, that can hurt the stock market. But whether it's a bear market or a bull market, you gotta, invest in the stock market. Now, the overall easy, simple formula to do this and understand is, you buy low and sell high. It's that easy, right? Go ahead and do it and become a millionaire. Well, it takes time. Like I always tell people, you got to learn when to strike, and you got to learn what matters, especially in the environment. Let's say if you want to invest in a stamp store that sells stamps. I don't even know if they make stamps anymore. Sure, there's digital stamps and stuff like that. But anyways, say you invest in a stamp store. Good luck with that, right? Because we don't live in that age or era anymore. Everything is literally emails or communication through the internet or your phone. But you got to understand, technology changes through time. I mean, technology changes within 6 months. Every year a new iPhone comes out. But hence, what I'm trying to get at is you got to learn how to play the market, right? Because big tech companies and automated machines, that has major influence in the stock market. So you got to learn how to navigate the seas of the stock market. And a lot of people say, yeah, invest in the stock market, but how do you do it? Right? That's for another video. But this is the most common asset that millionaires have, right? That helps them accrue wealth over time. Now, when you first start off with stocks and bonds, you got to understand, when you're younger, you can do it at a higher risk when you're young, right? Because you're still young, you can correct your mistakes as you go. But when you're older, when you're at the end and you're ready to pull out whatever you invested in, you're actually at a low risk, right? And usually Vanguard or anybody, any kind of Fidelity or whatever broker you have, whenever you go through it, they'll kind of give you a ratio, which is like a 90-10 split, or 70-30 split, whatever your age, your profession, how much you can invest. And they have this whole portfolio for you. And you can use brokers, and it's okay. I mean, you have Charles Schwab, you have so many out there, especially now in this new Silicon Valley era. But stocks and bonds are not going anywhere. It's a part of the market. You got to learn how to pay to play, but at the same time, do your research, do your due diligence in order to invest and just have a healthy and wealthy lifestyle. And at the same time, which leads me to my next rule, which is my personal favorite: real estate. Real estate. We could talk about real estate all day, but you got to understand this is one of many assets that every millionaire owns. Every billionaire and millionaire that I've asked either come in relation with selling property, having property, rental property, real estate, real estate. Why is that? Because people always need a place to live, right? And at the same time, you can never predict the future. You don't know what the markets entail. But at the same time, you understand real estate is going to be on your portfolio, and within 10 to 20 years, that house is not going anywhere, right? It's a fixed asset, it's a fixed property to where it stays grounded, it's not going anywhere. In fact, it's actually going to make you more money than when you first initially bought it, right? And that's how real estate works: compound interest, we got inflation, you got so many things, appreciation, and I don't even want to get into the tax benefits of owning property. But you got to understand this is one asset class that you have to get into, and at the same time is going to accrue wealth in the future for you. Now, usually the standard is the average is 10 to 12% ROI. What does this mean? Return on investment. That means what you put in, you get out, usually cash on cash. But you got to understand real estate is a lot of tweaking, a lot of movement, a lot of moving parts. And you, as an investor, have to be very knowledgeable. Now, these millionaires, when they come across it, they usually focus on an asset class, which is rental properties, fix and flips. You have millionaires who've made a business out of it, just providing home services. There's so much money out there of services involving real estate that it kind of gets you excited, right? Because wherever you throw the dart, it's going to land on usually a great investment. And real estate is just one of those avenues that every millionaire uses. You can, like I said, you can ask anyone right now. And at the same time, I wish I was a millionaire, but at the same time, I'm slowly becoming, in this progress, and I want to take you along for the ride. Whatever I know, I will share with you. And which, leads me to the next point, which is real estate is a long-term game, right? I'm going to repeat it one more time. Real estate is a long-term game. Don't invest in real estate expecting to be a mega millionaire the next day. Why is that? Because things take time. I mean, before you even close on a house, you got closing costs, you got, inspectors going in. There's so much to do around real estate that it's not an overnight thing. You're not going to wake up, check your bank account and be like, "Oh, I don't got to go to work today." I wish I can do that. But it's a long-term game. I'm a buy and hold kind of guy. I like to buy rental properties, hold it, and just, let the markets do what they got to do. It's sort of a recession-proof feeling to have that, right? And at any time you're building equity. If anybody else wants to buy your property, then good job. But real estate is a great avenue. Every millionaire always has. And the good thing about real estate is that it's easy to get into the field. It's easy to be hands-on. Now, that doesn't mean it doesn't have any risks. What it means is that if you speak to a realtor, if you speak to a millionaire, if you speak to your mom and dad, I mean, anybody, neighbors, they're gonna, they'll tell you, "Yes, I own property here. Yes, I own an Airbnb here. Yes, I do this." Why is that? Right? Because it's passive income that helps them sustain their lifestyle. And this is where I try to tell everyone real estate is just such a great option, right? I do it myself. I'm along for the journey, and I understand that it's not going to happen overnight. But it's very easy to get into. There's plenty of books, plenty of videos, such as mine. Check out my channel, right? That's, the majority I do talk about is real estate, but because I love it and I want to share this wealth with you. But which leads me to my last and final thing that every millionaire or asset, every millionaire that has is buying a business, right? A lot of millionaires and billionaires, they don't just have one basket, they have multiple baskets. This is what makes them rich and makes them stay rich. you got to have multiple baskets, right? Because in case one fails or one gets dropped or something happens, you have the other. Not only that, say you're cooking, something here at the same time, this is going to take its time. It's sort of a garden. You want to plant as much as you can and see what comes out of the ground and just build. But I always say, don't start a business, buy a business. And the way to do that, you can go to plenty of websites out there. Biz Buy Sell is a great one. But I always tell people, businesses fail. You got to understand it does need leadership. It does take someone to step in and have standard SOP or standard operating procedures, but you got to learn how to tweak it. But once you tweak that and you start seeing, top line revenue from bottom line revenue, and you got to learn how to expenses and management and employees and human resources and all that good stuff, then you become a real investor. But at the same time, you know, buying a business is exactly what millionaires do, right? They own multiple businesses. Now, usually it's a higher return on investment, which is 15 to 18%. That's pretty high, but you got to understand, with high risk comes high reward. Same thing goes the other way. High reward is high risk because now you're in a field that you cannot control. Because, say, let's start with the stamp store, right? Say automatic, we have this trend of Generation Z. They love stamps now. They want to bring it back. Okay, good job. You go buy a brick and mortar business. You're uncontrollably great at selling stamps. But then the next year, nobody buys stamps. So what can you do, right? Either you can keep going in the business and hope it'll fail, but you have to learn how to transition, or just get on board on what's actually a good business, a bad business, and what's an okay business, right? Because people, it's so easy to say, start a business, start a business. Well, don't listen to no one that doesn't have a business, right? Because they don't know anything about it. But sometimes people just break even. They don't even profit, right? They're doing enough just to pay the bills and keep the lights on, which is not what everybody's expectation is. Usually, if you start a business, you want to see profit and you want to scale. But the reality is, not everybody survives. Not everybody can know how to manage businesses. But this is a great asset class, especially with millionaires. They usually put people in place. They have general managers. They have people that know what they're doing, right? Know how to navigate the business world. But it is high risk. You have huge loans and you're hoping to get some return to pay back the loan and profit. But which I digress. I always say, don't start a business, right? Buy a business. And like I said, with that one website, you have multiple websites. But basically, when you buy a business, you're stepping into the shoes. You're seeing the results already, right? You're seeing how profitable it is. And they usually they tell you what cash how much it cash flows, what's the revenue. They have to share all this with you in order for you to buy the business. Now, there's different ways about going about it. You can get a SBA loan, which is a whole different series. We can get into a whole thing, or you can buy it cash. Majority of the time, they go through SBA, which is the government-backed loan program, which is they fund 90%, you do 10% down, and they buy the business, and whether it's an HVAC company, an accounting firm, car wash, laundromat, these are recession-proof businesses that always work, right? That what that means is that people are always going to be washing their clothes and washing their cars, and you know what I call it is, it's called a boring business, right? Nobody, it's so boring, but you're so profitable and you're making all this good money, and you're yawning, and you don't even have to get up in the morning, but you check your bank account and it's like, wow, this is a lot of money. But in the end, this is another asset that millionaires have. And I just always tell people, look, the time to start is now. The saying is that you're never going to be your younger self as of today, right? And at the same time, please do your research. Don't go in it blindly. Have a mentor. Have myself look at videos. Do whatever you can to become the best investor and just plan for the future. Now, listen, I don't want you to get the wrong message, right? Money, 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 and this guy just thinks of money. No, 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 no. The love of money is different than actually you having financial freedom and financial security. That's what you got to understand, because like I said, it's a long-term game. Sometimes, things don't work out, schooling or whatever profession you're trying to get into, and then guess what? You have nothing left. You have to start from the bottom. And sometimes, you don't want to be a barista, a coffee barista. I say that as an inside joke because I was once a barista and I won't name the company. But at the same time, you got to understand that, you're going to go through this voyage of what is a good investment? How can I put my money here? How can I make the market work? And it does take time and patience. Just know you have that. But, while you don't have money now, at least have the education to go through the voyage, to go through the journey. And like I said, I wish I had information like this for my younger self to actually see what I could have become. Not to say that, I'm not on my way, but it would have helped. Now, that wraps up today's video. If you like today's video, give it a thumbs up. It does help the algorithm. And if you like this channel, check out my podcast, check out the other videos here. And I thank you for watching.